Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into something really quite puzzling in how humans work. It's this incredibly painful contradiction. You see someone who seems desperately thirsty for connection, for love, but then they just won't drink. They stand at the edge.
Yeah, it's that deep fear, isn't it? Not just, being a bit commitment phobic in a casual way. We're talking about something much deeper. This profound, often totally unconscious terror that makes people actively, sabotage relationships or just avoid them altogether. Even when what they seem to crave most real, sustained love, happiness, is right there.
It seems completely backwards, doesn't it? If you truly long for that closeness, why would your own internal wiring work so hard to make sure it never actually happens
Yeah.
or never lasts? And just to be clear, we're not really focusing on the external stuff today, like, oh, bad timing or they live too far away.
No, this is about the internal architecture, that hidden mechanism inside that somehow learned to equate feeling safe with being totally self-reliant, isolated almost.
So our mission in this deep dive is to kind of explore that tipping point. When does that need for internal safety, that familiar feeling of being okay on your own, actually start to overpower the genuine human desire for connection, for vulnerability?
And the big question we want you, the listener, to maybe think about is, what happens if you find love, real love, but the success of it feels like some kind of massive threat? What do you actually do then?
I think to really get it, we need to start by looking at the blueprint. Where does this capacity even come from?
Right, let's unpack that. Looking back in time, because the ability to actually accept love, to tolerate it, and ultimately, enjoy being loved as an adult, it's not automatic. It's not a given.
No, it really isn't. It's so dependent, critically dependent, on the quality of our earliest emotional experiences, our childhoods. For adult love to feel welcome, not threatening, the love we experienced as children needed to feel, reliable enough, safe enough, and consistently kind. That's key.
And when those early bonds get fractured somehow, then the capacity to handle steady, safe love later on, it just doesn't develop properly. It gets stunted.
And a fractured bond. That doesn't always mean something huge and dramatic, right? It can be subtler.
Oh, absolutely. It covers a whole range of things that basically teach a child that relying on someone is risky, unpredictable. Think about how this capacity gets blocked. Maybe you had a caregiver who was physically there, but just emotionally checked out, always working maybe, or just unavailable behind a closed door.
Or perhaps the person the child really depended on got sick or depressed. And that crucial emotional support suddenly vanished right when the child needed it most.
Exactly. Or the flip side, volatility. A parent with a really unpredictable temper. So love and care might arrive, but it's tangled up with the fear of an explosion. Pain.
Or sometimes it's about shifts in attention, isn't it? Like a younger sibling arriving, or maybe parents splitting up and forming new families.
Yeah.
And suddenly the child isn't the main focus anymore. And they internalize this feeling, this deep down sense of maybe not being quite good enough, not quite worthy of that consistent attention.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the consequence, the key thing here is how the child adapts. Survival kicks in. The immediate psychological response is actually very clever, very efficient, but it comes at a cost emotionally down the line. That child becomes an expert in being independent. They learn deep in their bones that dependency leads to pain or threat or maybe even catastrophic loss. Safety is found elsewhere.
So the armor they build isn't just them being difficult or sulking. It's actually a survival strategy that worked brilliantly at the time.
It is. It teaches the brain this powerful, almost unbreakable rule. Safety equals isolation, control, self-sufficiency.
And that's the moment the mind sort of flicks a switch, right?
Yeah.
Deciding never again to fully trust the messy, unpredictable reality of another human being.
And that huge need we all have for connection, for another person, that intense energy, that passion, it has to go somewhere. It doesn't just evaporate. It gets completely rerouted, channeled into things that feel predictable, controllable, which leads us to how this self-protective isolation actually looks in practice.
All right, this is where you see the art of substitution, you could say.
Yeah.
They might become huge readers, getting lost in fictional worlds where characters behave predictably and endings make sense.
Or they develop this intense fascination with animals. Animals offer affection, often unconditional, without all the complex demands and potential betrayals of human relationships.
Or they get obsessed with systems, things with rules, like music, maybe composing or playing an instrument with incredible focus, or coding, computer games. Maybe diving deep into a very specific academic subject.
Exactly, things they can master. Things governed by rules they can understand and control, unlike human emotions, which just refuse to be neatly managed.
And here's the really tricky part, isn't it? This independence, this mastery over their chosen safe zone, it becomes a huge source of pride. It's part of their identity.
They guard it fiercely so they can genuinely say and believe that they want love. They might even sob, really sob, when a relationship ends because that deep longing for connection, it never goes away. But the internal reality is that their capacity to actually tolerate, to endure a relationship that is mutually satisfying, safe, and stable, that capacity is damaged because real closeness requires them to, well, to step back towards vulnerability, to dismantle that protective structure they built so carefully as a child. And that feels terrifying, like self-destruction.
So, okay, a potentially good partner comes along, someone kind, reliable. The internal alarm bells start ringing.
Loudly, yeah.
We usually assume the fears about failure, right?
Yeah.
That the relationship will crash and burn and cause pain. But if this system is so geared towards survival, how does it play out?
Well, this is where it gets really, really fascinating when we look at the adult psychology of it. The truly startling thing, the idea that can be quite hard to swallow, is that the ultimate terror isn't really that love might fail. It's that it might somehow, against the odds, succeed.
Hang on. Success. Success is the threat. That feels completely upside down. If you desperately want connection, why would your subconscious see success as the enemy?
Because genuine success in a mutual loving relationship requires something they've spent their whole lives avoiding. Defenselessness, exposure, real love, lasting love means the walls have to come down. Permanence feels like losing control.
And the brain still running on that old damaged childhood program.
Exactly. It perceives taking down the defenses as an existential threat. The internal logic, however distorted, is simple. Vulnerability nearly destroyed me once. I cannot let that happen again. So, to stay safe, the relationship simply cannot be allowed to fully succeed. It has to be kept contained, or it has to flounder.
Wow. Okay. So that explains the psychology of romantic sabotage. This isn't just accidentally messing things up. It's a skill.
Oh, it's a highly developed skill, often operating completely unconsciously. And it frequently starts right at the beginning during the selection process, choosing partners with built-in reasons for failure. It's like planned obsolescence for relationships.
What kind of reasons?
Obvious ones sometimes. Someone who lives on another continent, someone way older or younger, making long-term compatibility tricky. Or, classically, someone who is emotionally unavailable, maybe they're already married, or just clearly unable to commit.
So you're setting it up to fail from the start. Asking for love from someone you know can't really give it. Not sustainably, anyway.
Precisely. It's preemptive self-protection. It hurts, yes, but it confirms the internal belief that love is fundamentally unsafe or unattainable.
Okay, but what if someone manages to pick a partner who is actually
Well,
functional, kind, available? Does the sabotage just stop?
not usually, no. If a genuinely suitable partner gets through that initial filter, the sabotage mechanism just shifts gears. It moves into phase 2, the flaw-finding mission.
Ah, the nitpicking.
Exactly. It's a way to push away the threatening possibility of actually being happy and content. They start noticing and massively inflating tiny imperfections. You know, this one's always 5 minutes late, that one doesn't exercise enough, or they don't speak any foreign languages, or a common one, they're just not creative enough.
And these flaws are usually pretty minor, right? Things that wouldn't bother most people or could be worked around.
Absolutely. They're often mundane, interchangeable. The point isn't really about the flaw itself.
The point is,
The point is to find any reason, any vaguely plausible justification to pull back, to convince themselves why this person, who might actually make them happy, isn't quite right. It maintains the narrative that finding the one is impossible because their standards are just so incredibly high.
but the secret fear isn't that no one meets the standard.
It's that someone might. They complain nobody loves them properly, but the deeper anxiety is that someone actually could, and that would require letting the guard down.
And if, despite all this, they somehow do settle into a relationship that feels, okay, functional, does the sabotage finally stop then?
Often it just becomes more subtle. They start practicing what you might call the art of distance management, ways to ensure the connection never gets too deep, too stable, too threateningly happy.
Distance management, like being a chasm weaver.
That's a great way to put it. Just when things feel like they might be settling into a genuinely happy, relaxed state, that moment of thinking, wow, this feels safe, this feels good, that's when they unconsciously introduce a rift, a chasm.
How? What does that look like?
It can be quite overt.
Hmm?
Picking a huge fight seemingly out of nowhere, often right before something nice is planned, like a holiday or a birthday, ruining the mood.
Or suddenly claiming they're overwhelmed with work or need to spend all their time studying for some exam, creating artificial stress that pushes the partner away, making quality time impossible.
Yes. Or it can be smaller, more insidious, those little passive-aggressive acts that slowly erode trust,
Like,
like constantly forgetting to pay back money or neglecting a shared chore until the partner feels forced into nagging, like a parent. These aren't just careless mistakes, they're often unconscious, mood-lowering tactics, designed to keep the relationship slightly off balance, slightly tense, never letting it reach a state of easy contentment.
keeping it simmering, but never letting it boil over into real stable happiness.
Exactly. And sometimes it's more direct disruption. Maybe flirting outrageously with someone else at a party, planting seeds of doubt and insecurity in their partner's mind about how solid the relationship really is.
So all these actions, big and small, they chip away at the trust. They lower the emotional temperature.
They do. They're often calibrated unconsciously to cause just enough instability to prevent things from feeling truly secure, but maybe not quite enough to end the relationship immediately. It keeps the saboteur in control, privately certain that things will never truly fly.
And friends look on and think, oh, poor them, they have such bad luck in love.
Right, when actually what observers might be witnessing is an incredibly sophisticated, deeply ingrained skill at romantic sabotage, a finely tuned system dedicated to avoiding the perceived vulnerability of true happiness.
Wow. Okay, so if someone listening recognizes these patterns, either in themselves or maybe someone they care about, what's the way forward? It sounds so entrenched.
The first step, the most crucial one, really is compassion, understanding where this comes from. We need to look back, reflect on that connection between those early fractured bonds and these disruptive adult patterns. It requires kindness towards that younger self who was hurt.
So realizing it's not about being inherently flawed or difficult now.
Exactly. It's not wickedness. It's not deliberate cruelty, usually. It's a pattern born from being very badly hurt and developing a really powerful survival mechanism. The anxiety around contentment, that's fear talking, an old fear.
And that survival skill, that fierce independence.
It was necessary then, absolutely brilliant, in fact. But in the context of a potentially healthy, loving adult relationship, it's outlived its usefulness. Its rationale is gone. Change starts when you realize you're reacting based on that old script, that old fear, not necessarily on the reality of your current partner or relationship.
Which brings us to that final, maybe most uncomfortable truth you mentioned earlier about why someone might pull away just when things are getting good.
Yes, that temptation to pick a fight, to find fault, to create distance when everything feels smooth. It might not be about your partner's flaws at all.
It might be.
It might be rooted in this immense, terrifying fear that they, your partner, might actually be capable of making you deeply, sustainably happy.
And that potential for real contentment. That's the scary part.
And the heavily armored soul, yes, it can feel like the most unutterably, boundlessly frightening possibility imaginable.
Yeah.
Because it demands you dismantle the self you've always known to stay safe. It means facing the biggest challenge. Not the struggle to find love, but the challenge of surviving happiness. What stands out to you listening to this about that kind of fear? Something to maybe ponder?